I'd like a glass of water and 2 paracetamol for a headache. Hello and welcome to Going for Goldbridge. We're back with another Going for Goldbridge, and I'm going to be talking about quitting YouTube. It's not clickbait, it's a very good question, and I've got an answer for it because it is something that definitely crosses my mind. OCD, all your questions, and yeah, let's get into it. I like doing it for Going for Goldbridge when I'm in the mood for it. So yeah, I'm in the mood for it at the moment. And one of the things I often get asked is, what's the most embarrassing thing you've done in your life? And I often think about things that actually really hurt. And I think that there's 2 things that come to mind. One, when I was living in Ireland, at the end of the road, and I might have told this before, at the end of the road was the beach, and to get to the beach, you had to sort of go across the road, then there's a path in front of the beach, and then you sort of go to your right for about 20 metres and down some steps. Or, hypothetically, there was a shortcut where you just go over the wall. But over the wall, there was about 10 metres thick of nettles. One night I was drunk, and I jumped it to go through as a shortcut. Which was a stupid thing because I ended up rolling and getting stuck in the nettles, and it took people about 15 minutes to find me in the dark. I was absolutely off my face. I was shit-faced. Not on drugs, on drink. Yeah, as drunk as I was, I could feel the nettle stings all over me. And the next day when I woke up, I could still feel the throbbing. So imagine what it would have been like if I hadn't had the anaesthetic of a bottle of Jack Daniels. So that was quite embarrassing. And another one was around my sister's having a barbecue, and I went up on the conservatory to say good night to my brother, who was about 10 at the time and was sleeping in their spare room. And when I was up there, I was doing things like, I'm the king of the world, and in impressions of The Rock, because I used to like WWE, and I slipped and I fell and I landed in the barbecue. Everybody found it funny because they were drunk. I was drunk as well. But when I woke up the next day, I had a burnt bum and a very bad bruised thigh. So my lesson to you is just be very careful when you're drunk. There's some terrible statistics of people getting very seriously injured and probably dead from stupid things you do when you're drunk, because you become immune to common sense and pain in some sense. But let's just fly into some of the questions. I want to get into... I don't know which question to answer first, quitting YouTube or OCD. I'm going to do OCD because I think I've touched on it before, obsessive compulsive disorder. And I've spoke about mental health, I've spoke about depression, I've spoke about a lot of things, but I've never really spoken about this. And I don't think it gets anywhere near enough attention, but it's definitely something that still affects me now and has affected me a lot through my life. Obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, I wish that mine was to do with keeping my house tidy and organised, because I'm terrible at that. But I have always had this, and it's a really weird thing. And I don't know how many people suffer with it, and I don't know how what people perceive it to be if you don't suffer about it, because I think I've spoken to some people and they've said, oh, just stop doing it. But again, it links into mental health, I think, because what I've done is, in my life, I've had things that I don't like. And they're not like go to the police, abuse or stuff like that. It's just like when my mum and dad separated, I had to go and spend the weekends at my dad's house, and I didn't really like it. Nothing to do with my dad, really, just that I wanted to be back at home with my mates on the weekend. So, you know, it just made me unhappy. Going on holiday for 2 weeks with my dad and his family when I didn't really want to go and things like that. And as a coping mechanism, I think OCD came out of that. It was like, if I do things 3 times, everything will be all right. Because I think my big fear was that when I was away and stuff like that, I was going to die or something like that, and I just wanted to be back in where I wanted to be. And I think as a child, life is very simplistic, and you look at that as an adult and it's not. You're like, what an idiot. But as a child, you just want to be back in the place where you feel secure. And I just used to do things 3 or 9 times. There's certain numbers that if I did it, I had to do it another time. So if I did things twice and left it, I don't know how my brain works, but I would think something bad's going to happen. So it could be simple things like, you know, walking on the crack of a pavement. If you did it twice and then went in the shop, no, I'd have to go back out and tread on another crack 3 times. And that does sound stupid. Or it's like, even like with but even now, if I'm like going to bed at night and I'm checking the baby monitor on Seb, and the flashing light, I see it twice and then I'm going to bed, I'll have to go back and make sure I've seen it 3 times. Even now. And I don't have it anywhere near as bad as I used to, but it is a form of OCD. And a lot of people think OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is about cleaning and lots of other things. But for me, it is about doing things in multiples of 3. And I can go deep into this, or I can just say, if you have it, or you're not aware of it, it can be a big impact. It can be an impactor because it depends how severe it is. If you don't do it, if you don't keep your cupboards clean, if you don't do that thing 3 times or 9 times, your mind will tell you that something bad's going to happen. That's what happens to me. So I will always try and do things. And there are numbers that I just don't like. So again, obsessive compulsive disorder. And for me, 1's a good number, 2 is a terrible number, 3's a good number, 4's a good number, 5, terrible number, 6, good number, 7, good number, 8, bad number, 9, good number, 10, okay, 11, bad number. So basically, it's the second number in multiples of 3. So 1 and 3 are fine, 2 is not a good number, 4 and 6, fine, 5, that's the second number in the multiple 3, is a bad number. You see, welcome to my world. I live with it, and it's nowhere near as bad as it was when I was growing up, because as you become more mature and you start to think, not doing this 3 times is not going to end the world, but occasionally it still is a thing. Bit of light relief here. Somebody also said to me, what's your best ever put down on somebody, and I developed this into something whereby, obviously I used to do policing and stuff, and one of the things I'm really proud of is that in 10 years I never used my CS spray and I only once got my baton out, whereas some people I worked with changed their CS spray like they changed their deodorant. They was changing it every week. So basically CS spray is an incapacitator, and basically if you spray it in somebody's eyes, I've had it done to me because you had to do it in training, and it's bloody hot. I mean, maybe that's something people would be interested in. What's it like having CS spray put into your eyes? It's bloody horrible. Some people are immune to it. I think dogs are meant to be immune to it. It's horrible. They're basically crystals that go in your eyes or on your clothing, and it just makes you, it just impacts with your respiratory system. So your eyes water, it's painful, snotty nose, everything. And it's used by the police to incapacitate people who need incapacitating. They've got tasers now. They weren't really around when I was in it, but I never used it. And I never use my baton, which is like basically a baton that you extend, it goes big, and you can hit people with it if they need restraining, etc. But I never used it because I'm a big believer in, funny enough, communication, and that's something that I've always been quite proud of. At the end of the day, there are people out there that no amount of talking is going to stop them trying to hit you or do horrible things to you. There are people out there who just have that in them, but there are a lot of people who, when they're angry, you can bring them down. And there was this occasion, and I wasn't in the police here, but I'm just telling you, like, that's my record in the police, and I'm quite proud of that. Is that I was driving home once from picking up the kids, so I had the kids in the back of the car, and we approached this roundabout, and this car in front just slammed their brakes on. I don't even know why. I couldn't stop. Went into the back of them. It was a woman, Equality Street. She got out the car, come to the car window, and was like abusive straight away. And I said, "You've left your handbrake on, your car's rolling," and it hadn't. She turned around, went running back to her car, and then halfway there realised that she'd put her handbrake on, and she came down, and it absolutely killed her anger. And she came back over, and she was like, she tried to get angry, but she'd lost that rage. And I knew then. I was like, right, let's think about what's happened. You silly bitch. Now fuck off. No, I didn't really, because I had the kids in the back, but I did give her some back. But I brought her mood straight down. And one I want to try, and I was talking to the wife about this the other day, is we got cut up by this car the other day when she was in the car with me, and as they went past, I went, silly bitch, because I thought it was a woman. And not a nice thing to say, but when you're angry. Again, I can't stand with my farts don't smell Britain. People who are, oh, you can't say that, like they don't say these things when they're angry. So calling someone a silly bitch is not a nice thing, but they'd nearly whacked the front of our car off on my wife's side. So, but the funny thing is, the wife said, that's not a woman, it wasn't a woman. And I went, oh, I really thought it was. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if we went to the next roundabout, he got out of his car to have an argument with us, and I could say, oh, you're one of those men who looks like a woman. And she went, yeah, that would go really well, wouldn't it? I said, yeah, but it'd be really satisfying for me, because it'd be a massive put down and it would really get them angry. But I don't think it would calm them down. I think it would make them open to you. What do you think? But I don't know what we were talking about then. I don't know how we got onto that. OCD. Right, let's go through some of your questions, because I want to talk about this quitting YouTube stuff, because I think it's really important. Did you watch KSI versus Logan, all the highlights, says at Jake Brady? I can honestly say I didn't. And it wasn't through any protest. It was on in the early hours, so I wasn't staying up to watch it. I woke up, I saw who'd won, and then I just thought I've got no interest in watching it because I know the result. So no, it wasn't something I wanted to stay up and watch, and I didn't get the urge to go and watch it after I knew what the result was. Do you put the milk or tea bag in first, says Jorg McLaughlin? Tea and milk goes in last for me. Coffee, I'm a little bit more freestyle. Sometimes it's the milk, sometimes it's the coffee. Have you ever had thoughts of quitting social media as a job and going back to working in your ordinary job, says Tobias Lindstrom? So this is at Toby Lindstrom on Twitter asking me, have I thought about quitting social media? YouTube is part of social media. And the honest answer is yes. You know, I think there's not enough honesty in the world. There is not enough honesty. I think there's too much spin. We've got an election at the moment, and they're both spinning round like bottle tops, both of the main parties. And, you know, I think as a society, we're fed up of dishonesty. Honestly, it's probably not good for me to say this with a successful United channel, That's Football and this. But yeah, I often think about quitting social media and going back to an ordinary job. And sometimes it's a real attraction. You know, sometimes when I'm sort of walking into town to get my hair cut or whatever, I have to go through quite a residential area, and I'll see plumbers, I'll see builders, and I'll think, you know what? How appealing is that to have? I don't want to work for people. I like what I do at the moment because I work for myself, more or less. Although I do work with a lot of people, I do tend to, you know, be in charge of what I want to do to a certain extent. And I spent 20 years working in jobs where I had people telling me what to do, like most of us do. I don't want to go back and do that. Some people like that, I don't. I like the idea of working for yourself, and I do admit that I look at things like builders' jobs, you know, plastering, whatever, and think, wow, how great would a job like that be, where, you know, you start your day at 9 o'clock, you finish at 5 o'clock, your work's over, you know, you're in control of yourself, you've got a talent, lovely. I like that. Appeals to me, because the thing about social media is it's draining because it's 24/7. The work rate never stops and you never switch off. And for me, the biggest thing is it's so toxic. Like if you build a house, do people stand outside while you're building it going, "You're shit, mate, you're a nonce, that brickwork's crap, I'm better than you at that, useless, that house across the road's much better, that builder's better than you fucking nonce"? You know, you don't get any of that. When you don't get any of that. So that is quite appealing. And it's not that those things bother me, because obviously I've had it for years. The lies, the bullshit, the trolls, the knobheads. And that's what they are. And I know that's what they are because I know what society is. But the whole thing is quite draining. Day after day, year after year. So yeah, there are times. And I think anybody who says not is a liar. Because there's massive. But on the flip side is, one thing I would say is that makes me not, and I think at some point I will just go and do something like that. So I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to cough and say the real name. I'm not one of those people who who is absolutely obsessed with their social media persona and, you know, being a celebrity and stuff like that. And I think because I've done other things, like professionally and unprofessionally, but I've done other things, I know that there's a world beyond this. But having said that, I like the responsibility of this, and I like trying to convey and discuss things like we do on here, and you know, the charity stream I'm doing on Saturday on That's Football, make sure you join us for that. Those things are a positive that I could never do in an ordinary job. And what is ordinary? But they're not. So, but I definitely do think about it, and it's interesting because I saw True Geordie's tweet the other day about his video with Tyson Fury and struggling with mental health, and I think we all do. And I think social media is a massive, and I would always say this to people as well, if you're ever thinking of going into this world, everybody, you will struggle at some point with the adjustment from going from what seems to be an ordinary life into this world. And what I despise is the people who have these big followings on social media who are basically bullies because they moan like a bitch when they get stick, but they dish it out themselves. And look, I sometimes moan about what goes on social media, but I give it out as well. I'm not abusive with it, but I do give it out. That's the world we're in. But yeah, a long answer to that. But I definitely do consider quitting it. And I think that's just life. You should never feel locked into something anyway. You might be in your job or at college or uni or at school and consider quitting it. I wouldn't quit school and I wouldn't quit college because you know, qualifications are good and it's illegal to quit school. But in your job and stuff like that, of course, everybody thinks about it. Of course they do. What would you do if YouTube didn't exist? Says out of context Mark Goldbridge. What would you do if I didn't exist? Because you wouldn't have a Twitter account. What would you do if YouTube didn't exist? I just go and get a normal job. Done it before. Anna Man United says, world without sports or world without girls? Oh my life, that's a debate show in itself. A world without sport or a world without girls? I'd have to kick sports into touch. You can't. You know, I think some of the happiest times of my life have been, you know, even going back to your school days when you fancy a girl and you know. And then they might like you, or if they don't like you, you know, those emotions are probably the best emotions in the world, aren't they? And you know, when you find someone you love and they love you back, and you go through that initial chase, and then you end up in a, you know, building a life with them, or just a relationship that you look back on, you know, those things are pretty important, I think. And I know that's not the safe answer, and it's not the answer people want, but I'll give you an honest answer. I think honesty is important. I'd have a world with girls. Of course, homosexuals will probably say sports because girls are no good to them. But yeah, they would want the question to be sports or boys. Bisexuals would want both girls and a girl. But a world without girls, we can all watch our sport, but let's give it 50 years and we're all dead. We're finished, aren't we? So there we go. Short-term gain, long-term pain. Favourite Star Wars prequel film, says George Fisher. Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith. It's Barry Scott against the bottle of Sith. Will you come to Adelaide, says Clankins. I need to travel more. That's one of the things that I get moaned at by the wife, and she doesn't moan about much, but a lot of people say you need to start travelling more, which I do. Pineapple on pizza always comes up, Jack. I'm a big fan of pineapple on pizza, and as B said, he loves it. Jam or cream first, as Tony Martial came from France. Jam or cream first? On what? On a scone? I don't really care. I would put butter, jam, cream. Yeah, there we go. Have you watched Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, says Farid Khan? I have. I think I've only seen it once. Bit of a weird film. Okay. Probably not really my sort of cup of tea. Haven't watched this prequel thing yet. Don't even know if it's out. Have you ever watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? If not, you should, says Jock John Ston 07. I haven't. I've watched Philadelphia with Tom Hanks, which is a very good film about a homosexual dying with AIDS, which is effectively... That sounds really like, oh, I'm really for that. I'm not for that at all, but that is basically the film, isn't it? Tom Hanks is a homosexual who can contract AIDS and basically gets sacked from his job, and Denzel Washington, who is his lawyer, and they take them to the cleaners basically in the end. And then I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end in relation to the guy with AIDS, but yeah, you've got more of a synopsis now. But it's a very good film. It sounds quite a depressing film, doesn't it, if I just say it's about a homosexual who dies with AIDS, but there is a very good story alongside it as well. It's a good film. Will you be voting in the general election, says Oliver Moosley? Yes, I will. I think everybody should vote, unless, although I know people aren't voting this year because they think that everybody's lying, so whoever you vote for, you're voting for a liar. I will vote, and I do, and as I've said before, I don't like doing politics. I've looked a lot at the policies from all the parties, and I think everybody's lying and speaking the same bollocks. This general election is, I don't care what anybody says, it's about Brexit. And I'm not going to tell you what to vote, but I will be voting based on what I want to happen with regards to Brexit, because that's what it's all about. That's why it was called It's not about policies. It's not about anything else. I think we'll have another election before 5 years are up anyway. So it's about Brexit, and that's what I'll be voting in relation to. What was better, Life on the Road or Alpha Papa? Says ENF. What a question. Life on the Road with David Brent or Alpha Papa with Alan Partridge? I'm going to be honest and say I love both characters. I love Ricky Gervais and Steve Coogan. And I like David Brent and Alan Partridge. They are brilliant. However, I thought Life on the Road, David Brent, and Alpha Papa, Alan Partridge, were both not great representations of those brilliant comedy characters. I would say Alpha Papa is better than Life on the Road. Yes. Life on the Road was watchable and good, and I would definitely watch it again, but I probably prefer Alpha Papa. But I think both are too long, which is what happens a lot with comedy films. They go on for too long. But I think the first hour or so of Alpha Papa is brilliant. It's the end that goes a bit shit. And Life on the Road is I just find it it's too oppressive to David Brent. He's too much he's basically bullied, isn't he? Most underrated fruit, says Will at Spurs 24/7. Most underrated fruits. I don't know why kiwi comes to mind. I love it, but having said that, most frustrating. I'm going to rant about a kiwi. Who would have thought it? Most underrated fruit, kiwi. Most frustrating fruit, kiwi, because it's, you get an apple, right? You get an apple, you give it a wash. Some people don't. You chomp on it, easy work. Banana, little bit of work. Open it up, stick it in your mouth. Oranges. Yeah, there are some frustrating oranges. You know those ones that have got this. I like an orange that you get at Christmas. I think it's called a satsuma, where they've got a little bit of gap between the fruit and the peel. So you just literally just go like that. You can even do patterns as you take it off. You're in. As long as it's seedless. I hate the little fucking oranges that you open up, you start eating them, and then there's bloody pips in them. They can get lost. But the frustrating orange is the one where it's so tight against the fruit that when you're taking the peel off, you're taking off a centimetre square each time, and then you're trying to get it off, but you're taking bits of orange. I feel like just chucking it in the bin. But kiwi, I would like to say it's rewarding because I love kiwi, but kiwi, it's in some brown bloody skin that you have to chop it and then scoop it out, and you don't end up with a lot of fruit, but it's bloody nice. But the work rate to get into a kiwi is frustrating. But yeah, I like that. Who'd have thought we'd talk about fruit like that? There we go. Favourite David Bowie album, says Pinky Brown. Probably the best of David Bowie. And what is the most unprofessional thing you've seen someone do, says Sifa Akil. That's absolutely thrown me. All I can think about is politicians and lying. And they all do it. They all do it. And they all do it because they need your votes. If everybody just told the truth, like, yeah, we're not really going to spend that much money because the country would go into massive debt. Yeah, we're not going to actually give you a pay rise because we can't afford to do it. But if people were honest about it, the other party that's lying would get all the votes. So they all end up having to lie. So I think politicians piss me off. The Thai lady boys, tempted or not, says Joe. It's very confusing. What year would you go back to if you had the choice, says Manchester United, or at U54 Manchester? If I had the choice to go back, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't go back. Because I don't, it's like the butterfly effect, isn't it? If you go back, you're never going to do second for second what you did back in that time. So you're gonna ruin the future by going back. Just one word here could ruin something. So, but if I could just go back and live a time again, for me, and it's hard because I love my kids and I love my wife, and I love my life as well, and I wouldn't want to go back for a whole year. Maybe just go back for a day or so. I think I'd go back and live a Christmas Eve when I was about 10 or something like that. I had a good 2 or 3 Christmases that I just think were really magical. So I think that I would like to just go and go back and I wouldn't want to go back and have any control on anything. I just want to go back and live it like you watch a film. In fact, that's getting me a bit goosebumpy now. I just would like to go back and live a day or live a couple of days as I lived it. with no input on how. Just basically just watch it. That would be nice. Live it without actually having any control on changing anything. I think that would be nice, but it's never going to happen, is it? It's never going to happen. But what I always say to people is, no matter how shit things get, no matter how sad you get, especially this time of year, because I think Christmas for me, and we're not quite there yet, but there's a film called The Snowman, which is like an animation, which was when I was a kid, came out I think in the early 80s, and every time I hear the music at the start, it takes me back to that. It takes me back, and my kids like it, 30 something years later, but it takes me back. And I think nostalgia, Christmas can be a time of the year where you do get nostalgic in good ways and bad ways. But what I always think is, everything that's been before has passed. The answer's in the looking glass. There's 4 and 20 million doors. No, that's a song by Oasis. But everything that's been good has happened. It's happened. And you can't go back and live it because that's not the way life works. But it did happen. And it's there. It's in your heart, and it's never going to go. So, anything that ever... you could have a great day today. Tomorrow, it's gone. But it's still there. So, yeah. I hope that makes sense. Movie of the year, says Kanjit King. I think the Joker. at the moment. And favourite Batman, probably Batman Begins. I quite like that. Yeah. And I tell you what, Don says best movie saga. I think that's quite good. When are you going to the gym, Mark? The ladies can't wait, says Mish. I don't like the gym. I don't like my arms because I don't do anything with them. I'd like to get big arms, but I think people work really hard to get that, and I respect them, but I just can't be arsed. Time. Give me... You know what? I've always hated anything from the neck down. Apart from between the legs, I like anything involving that. We're all lads. Yeah, the lads. But seriously, no. Like there's jobs I've had where I like this. I like to use the brain. I like to be creative with the brain. If I could just say, right, I'm going to find an hour of my time every day to work on my arms and get bulky. But I'm not. My head's not going. My head's going to stay and play Call of Duty or watch a film. But my body's going. You can have the hour, but I don't want to be involved in it. Mentally, I don't want to do it. It's not that I'm not. It's not laziness. I'll send my body to do it, and you can have the hour, and I'll put up with the hard work for the body, and I'll put up with the tiredness afterwards. But my brain doesn't want to go. I can't. I just find it's like running. I find it so boring. But I'm not opposed to fitness work. I play five-a-side once a week. I love it because it's playing football, and I work harder than anybody. But boring gym stuff, I just find it boring. My mind is too creative. It's racing too much. Anyway, I'm probably boring you now. Gone on too long. Thanks everyone. Please do subscribe if you're new, bottom right hand corner. Smash a like on the video. Lots of stuff going on here. Call of Duty I will be playing again because I'm getting good, and I'll keep doing the Going for Goldbridges. And remember, on Saturday on That's Football, Mark Goldbridge That's Football, type it into YouTube, give it a subscribe. We're doing an all day stream raising money for cancer awareness, and it's gonna, hopefully we're gonna raise, I would love to get to 10k, but definitely 5k. Thanks for watching. I'll drop the link in the video description for that if you want to leave some money on the Just Giving page. People are contributing already, which is great. Thanks for watching.